All right. Welcome, everybody, to the 5-minute overview of Ruby. My guess is that some of you are already familiar with Ruby, formerly known as Ruby Receptionist. But I'm here to tell you about our live virtual receptionist and online chat specialist offerings. So, real quick, here is what appears to be a blurry picture of me, but at least it doesn't have my quarantine mustache. So anyways, my name is Tim Bedford. I am the partner sales manager here at Ruby. And my responsibility is to manage the many relationships with all of our state and local bars across the country, along with other legal organizations as well. So I'm here to give you the quick 5-minute rundown on Ruby. So let's take a look. Ruby at a glance. We were established about 17 years ago in Portland, Oregon, where we are headquartered. And we were kind of the pioneers of the whole virtual receptionist space. So at its core, Ruby is dedicated to helping small businesses grow, plain and simple. A little over a year ago, we actually acquired an online chat company as well called Professional Chats, who really shared a similar value proposition as us, Ruby. And that was offering service that basically acts as an extension of your firm, of your business at an affordable price. So today we work with over 10,000 small businesses, and most of which are in the legal vertical, much like yourself. So you're definitely in good hands with Ruby. Now, business is personal. We understand that, and I'm assuming that most of you as core members of a functioning small business or a small firm understand that it's your baby, and that outsourcing aspects of your business can be quite difficult, and there's certainly a trust factor that needs to be addressed. But like I mentioned earlier, 10,000 small businesses across the country trust us to do so, and we are the frontline communications for all of those organizations. So rest assured, you are in good hands. So if you take a look at our key offering and what Ruby was founded on, which is our live virtual receptionist, we help you deliver, bottom line. We make sure that no call goes unanswered and that the right information is delivered to you rather than being an interruption or a distraction throughout the day. I'm sure many of you that you've moved to your work at home stations now probably have a ton more distractions in your day-to-day lives. So we try and make that easy on you. Much like an in-house receptionist, we're capable of making live transfers, taking messages, performing intake, even helping with calendaring or outbound calls for meeting reminders. And I know we're presenting right before this meeting going over virtual paralegals. We're actually a great complement to them because we can actually provide them more time to execute on some of those core business functions rather than answering the phones. So we understand that as lawyers, most of your callers aren't usually in the best of moods. Which is why we really train our receptionists in tone matching, being able to hear that a caller on the other end and matching their tone, as well as empathy, so that your clients can really rest at ease knowing they're feeling heard. And all of our receptionists are actually now available 24/7, 365 days, which is awesome and really can just extend that extra availability for you and your firm. And if you are already leveraging case management software like Clio, we actually have an integration with them as well. So just further streamlining your business processes, being able to take those calls and logging them into your existing cases. Now, on the other side of the coin is our live chat specialists. I'm sure plenty of you guys have been on websites where that little chat bot pops up in the bottom right-hand corner. Much like that, we offer the same option, except we are able to staff that with the same friendly folks who are on the other side of the phones. So we're bringing real live people to those chats. What that means, they are much more dynamic and really able to answer those frequently asked questions and help ensure that those website visitors are really getting the answers that they need, especially if you're spending money on SEO efforts and marketing, driving those folks to your websites. You want to make sure that that conversion doesn't go unanswered. So our chat specialists are also available 24/7, 365 days of the year. And the nice thing is we send you the transcripts of all actionable chats. And we can even actually go one step further and call that website visitor right then and there to connect them over to you so that they're really getting captured at the apex of their interest in your practice. So, with limited hours, increasingly long days, and fractured demands, deciding how to allocate time can certainly be a challenge for an attorney and the firm in general, and especially as we move to these home offices. Balancing marketing and biz dev and administrative work and existing cases and incoming calls, court dates, and other interruptions, they really quickly lead to a bloated schedule. And it's really no wonder why that 76% of lawyers really feel overworked, and nearly as many report that working outside of regular business hours is pretty much the new norm. So it's no wonder that a solution like Ruby, both either on the phones or online chat, can really help alleviate some of that time. So wrapping it all together, some of the most important things that you can do to impact your firm's growth are also the simplest. Freeing up your time so you can focus on billable work, meeting those client expectations, and then ultimately continuing to build those relationships along the way is really what Ruby does best. So I want to thank you for connecting and listening today. Just a heads up, we are running a special promotion for anyone who's interested. That's $50 off your first 3 months of Ruby service with the code BNKRPT. And I'll also be available in the event Slack workplace for any lingering questions. But thank you so much for your time, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
It's a little crazy with the kid and the dog.
I can't get my video to work today.
That makes me look adventurous.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. I know. Oh no.
Welcome to Vegas.
That was so bad.
That was the worst ever. That was so bad.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tim, for coming on and talking to us a little bit about Ruby. That was awesome. At Next Chapter, we've used Ruby for years since the beginning, so we love Ruby. I think it is a really great complement to what we're going to talk about today. So a nice transition. But as we're getting settled in here, we've had a few minutes while Tim was talking. Everyone's gotten familiar with the chat, it looks like, which is great. My name is Mandy, and I am the speaker for this session. We're also going to have a panel here at the end. But while we wait for everyone to finish getting settled in, just have a few housekeeping notes. I'm going to pull up our slides real quick. So please feel free to get familiar with the chat. We have two community moderators today, Alex and Sarah, and then we've got a few other Next Chapter team members in helping out. So if you have any technical issues, any questions, please feel free to use the chat, and you can also communicate with each other, which you guys are doing a wonderful job of that. It's been really cool to see the community that is forming from this. So if you have questions, if you could use the questions tab, we will try to fit in a Q&A at the end. So instead of posting that in the chat, it might get lost. If you put it in the question section, then you can actually read other people's questions and upvote any that you really want to hear the answer to instead of posting it again. That'll help us organize for the end for a Q&A as well. And then, we're also going to be posting links and relevant information throughout the chat as we go. And I'm going to click to my photos on my housekeeping. There we go. Some of the things I just went over, and there's a poll in there. So I'm going to reference those throughout. I do want to hear, if you guys could take a second to answer those questions, and we'll kind of get a feel for the room today. And we've had a full house for the previous sessions, which is fantastic. We have loved talking with everyone. We hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have. And so, the sessions do get very full. So if for any reason, you're not able to stay the whole time, you have any connection issues, all of the sessions are going to be posted in our YouTube channel. And we're also going to send an email, a recap at the end of the day with all of the slides and all of the sessions. And if you are experiencing issues, we've found that if you close out all other programs, if you close out the tabs on your browser, and if you work from Chrome, that's going to give you the best experience. Sometimes just going out of the session and coming back in can take care of a lot of issues as well. And then last note for our housekeeping here, we did create a Slack group. If you haven't joined, please do so. We're going to share a link. It's open to all members of the Bankruptcy Week attendees. And everything's broken down by regions, by topics. It's a great way to continue the conversations that are forming and the groups that are forming from this session this week. So we'll include a link for that in the event email recap as well if you haven't signed up. If you're tweeting, also feel free to move the conversation to Twitter as well, and you can use the hashtag Bankruptcy Week. And one last thing we have, I want to go over quickly, but it's very important to us, the Code of Conduct. We do want you to please take a look at this. We want to ensure that everyone's following the community guidelines. We want this to be a safe and inclusive space, so please take a look here. We're going to post, our community moderators will post the full link in the chat to the right, and you can take a look at that full statement as well. Okay, so let's get started. You know, since the pandemic started, 3 million people are not paying their mortgage. 1 in 4 businesses have shut down. 22 million people have filed unemployment. We've been sharing these statistics at the beginning of every session because we think they're important, but I would also say that they're probably outdated even since then. So that's how quickly these numbers are changing. And the economy isn't going to be the same after this. So that's why we're here this week. That's why we're talking with all of you. That's why you all are here. We know the last recession saw a 74% increase in filings. And we know there's going to be another spike. A matter of when is unknown, but we do know it's going to happen. So we hope that you'll use this week to find mentors, to network, to communicate, find services, find paralegals, software, everything you can to really arm yourself and prepare yourself for what we expect to be an influx of filings. So again, my name is Mandy Ballinger. I'm the Director of Operations for Next Chapter. And prior to working with Next Chapter, I worked for a Chapter 13 trustee for about 5 years, did that during the last recession. And after that, I worked in foreclosure defense as a paralegal and eventually a managing paralegal. So being a paralegal, I love it. I went to Capital Law University and studied a post-baccalaureate degree as a paralegal, graduated top of my class. I actually loved the program. I'm a weirdo who likes school. So I really have a soft spot for paralegals. It's actually one of my favorite parts of my role at Next Chapter. In addition to leading customer success and the development teams, I also lead our virtual paralegal team, and I love it. Just to quickly give you a little back about the service that we have at Next Chapter. You know, Next Chapter, obviously the bread and butter is software to help attorneys prepare, manage, file their cases. We also have a service element for you to be able to use a virtual paralegal to assist you on your cases. So essentially using a paralegal on an on-demand service. We started offering that in October of 2018. We piloted it. I was the paralegal. We basically accepted cases for about 3 months. We developed the process. We figured out how to use the technology to be as efficient as possible. And then, you know, we started to grow the network organically. What's really neat is that, you know, we had paralegals reaching out to us who had been using Next Chapter for years. And they saw that, you know, attorneys can hire a virtual paralegal, and they were contract paralegals. And they're like, how do I get involved with that? So we had these great paralegals we already knew, we already loved, they knew the software. It was a match made in heaven. And it really has been that way ever since, because we've found that a lot of times it can be hard for virtual paralegals to market themselves and to find the attorneys in need. And then sometimes too, we can find it to be difficult, I'm gonna move these over here, to, you know, for the attorneys to find the paralegals, and that's where the software comes in. We have the users, we have the technology, and we kind of match them together really well. So now we have a network of 23 paralegals. I saw a question before we got started asking, do we have the capability to handle an influx of cases? And I'll answer that now. Yes, we do. We have paralegals on deck, actually. So we have plenty, and we are prepared for any type of influx that we're going to see. And we've recently expanded to accept casework in all areas of law. So that's just a little background about my experience, the service, and how it came to be. But today, before we dive into that, I want to step back and look at why use a paralegal in general. Then I want to look at why I think you should use a contract virtual paralegal. And then the biggest question I get about virtual paralegals, what does a virtual paralegal do? So I'm definitely going to cover that one. It's the number one question I feel like I get asked about it. And then having been a paralegal myself and managing paralegals and helping lead the service, I do have some best practices I want to share for working with a virtual paralegal if you've never done it before. And then I have an awesome panel at the end. We're going to pull up. I've got some questions for them. And then if we hopefully have time, we're going to ask some of the questions you guys have as well. So let's start with what is a paralegal? I want to pause before I get into it because I'm really curious to see. We've had a second for people to answer the poll. And I just wanted to know, do you currently work with a paralegal or support staff? So it looks like 30% yes, can't live without them, and 53% no. So it's actually half. Half of you said yes, half of you said no. Very interesting. But some are considering. So yeah, I'm going to talk to you why I think you should be in that yes and I can't live without them group, virtual or not. So why use a paralegal? So the big reason, money. Paralegals are paid less than attorneys, but they essentially do a lot of the same tasks that the attorney would have to perform without one. This is especially true in bankruptcy. There are many time-consuming tasks, such as client intake, document collection, input of all the information into the schedules and statements. That's a lot of tasks for a case that can be done by the paralegal, so that instead of spending time on those tasks, economically as the attorney, your time is better spent doing things like growing your firm, gaining new clients, building relationships with those clients. So that's going to save you a lot of money if you're able to move your efforts into other things that's going to be more lucrative for your business. The second big reason, your practice will be more efficient. I think it's fair to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but be nice. I'll try to be nice too, but I'm guessing you didn't go to law school because you are incredibly organized and a type A kind of person. Maybe I'm wrong, but most attorneys that I've worked with, that is the case. And that's what paralegals are great at. They're organized. They're on top of it. They're going to keep your cases on track. And that'll be invaluable for you. Paralegals do all of the scheduling of ongoing follow-ups. They track all the information that's needed. They keep a long list of the documents. They are on top of the cases. This is what they do, and they do it well. And to be if you have a good paralegal, this is going to give you peace of mind. You're not going to worry about cases falling through the cracks, clients being ignored or not addressed. They're going to help you stay organized, stay efficient, and that's really important. The third big reason is subject area expertise. I'm a cheerleader for all paralegals in general, for all areas of law. I think they really can help any attorney. But I hold bankruptcy paralegals to a higher esteem. I think they're a different breed. They are niche-based, and they make themselves so valuable. It's so smart, in my opinion. Many make their careers based solely around bankruptcy. They focus their entire working days in bankruptcy. And the more they know, the more valuable they become and the more efficient and faster that they can work too, because a lot of times it's flat fee based. So they want to be efficient. So the more work that they can complete, the more work they can take on. So it's a really cool thing, I think, for paralegals that are niche based like that, and they can really be that expert for you. They live in bankruptcy. So if you're new to bankruptcy, they can really help you with those first steps that might feel very awkward and unsure with the client intake. It's a lot you have to collect from the clients. They have they're well-oiled machines. They know how to do it. They know how to use the technology. They have wonderful checklists and wonderful systems in place to make sure that they can help you start collecting that information from your clients right away. And then they're also going to be able to keep an eye out for any red flags that they see. Based on their many experiences, the other cases that they've worked on, other attorneys, they're going to know issues that might come up for the courts, the judges, the trustees, and they can kind of let you know before it becomes an issue. And then the last thing I have on here, I think there's many, many reasons, but the fourth big reason I have is just that I think that the paralegal can really help with your client relations. Ruby, Tim spoke on this a few minutes ago with Ruby, but you really need to have a direct line of contact with your clients. You're going to find consumers seeking bankruptcy over the next 6 months to a year, maybe longer, that are going to be in harder situations from losing their jobs or their businesses that was completely unexpected. So they might require more handholding, and the paralegals can really help with this. They will act as an accessible and consistent client contact. They're going to help be that liaison for you too, and to let you know if anything comes up, if they have any questions, if there's any issues. So they're really skilled at being empathetic and being available and working with the debtors. So I want to now quickly look. I'm going to jump into my next question, or I'm sorry, well, yeah. Why use a contract virtual paralegal? So not just a paralegal, but what's the benefit of using the contract? So I put the other poll in here to see if anyone's worked with a virtual paralegal. Looks like some have. Looks like about 34% have. Some in bankruptcy, some want to, some are on the fence. So more haven't than have. So this is going to be something I really want to talk about, and I think the virtual paralegals coming on today can talk about too. So why use a contract virtual paralegal? All right, the big obvious thing, cost. And this is something that the service has been around for a couple years now, but it's becoming more prevalent as there's a paradigm shift right now of people not working in an office with all the overhead that comes along with it. And now obviously with coronavirus, it's even more difficult to work in office. So this is going to become more of the norm, I think, as we continue on. And I think, COVID-19 might accelerate the trend in this to work more remote. So what I have here is the average cost for an in-house paralegal. Very loose average here. Don't eat me up over this, but we're looking at an average, because it's hard to gauge, nationwide what this would be. So I'm really trying to find a middle ground. But you're looking at a salary of about $45,000. You've got to consider tax, fringe benefits, overhead that's going to be allocating for the rent, technology, all of the social activities, engagements, anything you have. You're looking, I would say, at about $90,000 a year. If you were to do those cases instead of with an in-house paralegal and using a virtual paralegal, I used figures from how much it costs in next chapter for a Chapter 7 case. It's $300. If you're filing on average 15 cases a month, 180 a year, you're looking more like $54,000. And that cuts out really all of those overhead costs. So, you're going to save money by not having to provide an office, equipment. The paralegals, they use their own internet, they use their own phones, they use their own computers, and they use all of that to communicate with you, clients, the courts. None of that you're going to have to worry about. And a lot of times the cost for the case is going to be a pass-off cost as well, much like you would for a credit report integration. You're going to pass that cost off. You're going to build that into the fees for your clients. The next reason that I think is really important to the benefit of working with a virtual paralegal, you can reduce those unknowns. There's a lot of them, especially if you're new to this area of law. Here's some of the unknowns you might have. How many cases will I get this month? By only paying for the work completed, you reduce the risk of not knowing how much staff you need during peak times and off-peak times. You hire the VP after you have the work, not before. So, the case will come in and then you're going to hire the virtual paralegal to work on it. And that's kind of reducing all of that unknown. The next big thing is how much time that you can save. If you're hiring in-house versus a virtual paralegal, you don't have to worry about all of these things: recruiting, interviewing, onboarding, training. If you use a company such as Next Chapter, the paralegals are already vetted, they're already interviewed, they're trained on the software, and there's no bankruptcy specific training needed. At Next Chapter, we only hire paralegals to work on bankruptcy cases who are very experienced in bankruptcy. So you really can hit the ground running with our paralegals. You're not going to have to spend any time on training. I think this is really interesting. Increase productivity. So in an 8-hour day, This is from a survey, 2016 survey conducted by vouchercloud.com in the UK. They did a survey to see over an 8-hour period how much an employee actually works in office. And 3 hours a day. 3 hours out of that 8 hours. It's actually 2 hours and 53 minutes to be precise. So why pay an employee to surf the internet, chat at the coffee station, maybe cause a little bit of drama? I don't know. You don't want to have to be the Bobs here and have to ask your paralegal, okay, only 2 cases got done this week. What is it you do here? Virtual paralegals are highly motivated. They rely on attorney and client satisfaction to be hired again on the next case. So, they are going to always make sure that the cases are getting done and they're getting done quickly. So the big question we always get asked, what does a virtual paralegal do? My answer to that is everything the attorney does, except it's easier to say what they can't do than what they can. They can do everything, except they can't accept the cases. They can't set your fees. You have to do that. They're never going to give legal advice. That would be the unauthorized practice of law. They can't plan strategy. So for example, like a Chapter 13 case, if the client is trying to figure out what's going to be the best option and they're asking, gets into a legal round, that's going to be for the attorney. That's not going to be for the paralegal. The paralegal can prepare, can help do all the calculations, can do all of that stuff, but they can't make the strategy. Can't make legal decisions. Again, that's unauthorized practice of law. Can't take depositions, can't appear in court. So instead of talking about what they can do, most commonly in bankruptcy, they will conduct that client interview as we discussed. They'll collect all the documents, all the information, and then they're going to take that and input that information into the schedules and statements. They'll help draft any of the local forms, any of your plans that you need. They're going to flag any issues they see. Again, this is where that skill and experience comes in. Issues with income, assets being unexempt, expenses that they know that the trustee is going to have an issue with. They're going to be able to alert you of those things. And then they're going to submit the completed forms to you for review, make any updates needed. It's always under the attorney's supervision. And then when it's ready, you've done the signing with the client, everything looks good, they can also help you with filing the petition and the schedules with the court. So that's commonly what they do. So best practices of working with a paralegal. I would say you're going to see a theme in this, and it's communication. So communicate your preferences and work style is a really great starting point. That is the key to working with a paralegal, is just having clear communication and developing your working relationship. So letting them know what's your preferred method of contact, preferred time of day for contact. I think it's really important to create some type of a check-in schedule. For example, I've seen where the paralegal is asked to send a weekly status update on all pending cases through email. Or maybe now you do a Zoom call. I think that's a great way to see each other face-to-face and to be able to communicate and just quickly get that out of the way. Here's the update on all the cases. Here's where we're at. Then I think on your first case, it's good to do a 5 to 10 minute call in the beginning to talk about the next steps, clearly state expectations you have. If you as the attorney prefer to file the case, if you want to always make sure you're the one who saves the exemptions, and any preferences you have, just lay it all out in the beginning. Here in a little bit, I think Sarah's going to save a link in. I don't think it's in there now, but we are offering this for everyone with Next Chapter. Talk with the paralegal, set out what this is going to look like prior to even having the first case on your desk. We're offering that for a small fee so that you can really feel like you are set up and ready to go before you panic and have a case and go, oh no, what do I do? The next one. Stole this from someone I really look up to, Dr. Brene Brown. Being clear is kind. Being unclear is unkind. As much as we would like to think, paralegals are not mind readers. And I know every paralegal just applauded me. As you learn their work, or as they start to learn your working style, they're going to try to anticipate your needs, but please don't take that for granted. Communicate issues you see right away, instead of letting the issue build. So oftentimes issues can be the result of miscommunication, especially when you're working virtually. So it could literally not even be an issue. And sometimes just bringing it up and saying, hey, I see this. This doesn't seem right. What's going on? Instead of waiting a week and making it a really big issue, just communicate, be clear right away. That's the best way to nip those types of issues in the bud. So lastly, again, all on the theme of communication, provide constructive feedback. Paralegals love this. They are trying to make sure they're working in a way that works with you. So a working relationship is organic and it should continue to grow and change. After your first few cases, maybe, again, you schedule a quick Zoom call. Talk with a VP, tell them what went well and what could be improved for next time. There's always room for improvement with any process. So remember to talk about what went well too. If the paralegal knows you especially like something, they're going to build that into the process every time for you. And remember, technology is your friend. Use the tools available for communication. We're all in a virtual conference right now. So you probably see how important it is to communicate face-to-face, see expressions. If I was just typing this to you guys, it wouldn't be the same. So conversations can be so much more clear with a quick 10, 15-minute Zoom call versus 20, 30 emails back and forth. So really use the technology that are available. And I think so much miscommunication gets cleared up if you just hop on the phone or hop on a quick call. We do that all the time as we're all working remote at Next Chapter. Sometimes it's just easier to be like, hey, let's just chat about this. And it's kind of nice too, because you're connecting and you're getting to know each other. And you're not only building a working relationship, you're kind of getting to know that person as well. So I think that's really important, and that's a key thing. There's so many tools out there. Next Chapter and Paralegal as a Service, we have okay, let me see. Can everyone hear me okay? I lost sound there for a second. Okay, sorry about that. So as I was saying, just not sure why my sound keeps going. Maybe I'll just disconnect here. I might go off stage. I'll hop on if I do. Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry, everyone. Just want to make sure you can hear me. Don't know why my ear.
Hey everyone. I'm just hopping in to help out so Mandy can work on getting this back
How am
in
I
action.
now? Am I
I
good?
think you're good.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't know what's going on with
Keep
that. My
talking.
AirPods.
We're just gonna make sure before I head out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm actually on my end slide here, and I am actually going to, let's see, we're going to bring up the panel here. So hopefully, let's all fingers crossed that my speakers stay here. Okay, thank you. All right. So we are going to bring up a panel now, and let's see. There we go. Okay, so I think we're all good. I'm so sorry, everyone. Hey, that's another thing. Technology is your friend, and sometimes technology is not your friend. So just remember that. So you're going to see a few faces pop on here. I'm going to give some introductions. While I do, I also want to let you know we are going to share a link again to set up a 30-minute call with could be one of these lovely paralegals. They all do work for Next Chapter. And, it's basically a 30-minute call to help you get set up and to hit the ground running. It is $50, and I think it's totally worth it. So if you're interested in scheduling a call, click on that schedule now. We'll also have it in the chat here, and then we'll get you scheduled for a call too. So just want to share. Let me close out of that. All right. So on stage here, we have Jean. Jean Springer is a virtual paralegal at Next Chapter. She assists attorneys with preparation and filing of Chapter 7 and 13 cases. She's educated at the Michigan State University and has been a bankruptcy paralegal for 22 years. And we also have Sherry. Sherry has been a paralegal for over 35 years, working in family law, bankruptcy, personal injury, Social Security, VA disability, probate, real estate, you name it, she does it. the list goes on and on. We have one more, and she may not be able to join. I'll try to invite her on and we'll see how this goes. But if not, we'll keep rolling with it. Let's see if we can get Robin on real quick. Invite her. Okay, welcome, ladies. We'll see. I'm going to close out of our hide this here so we can all just see our faces. How are you guys doing today?
Great. How are you?
Good. So happy to have you guys. So I just want to ask a couple quick questions. Let's see. All right, Sherry, you're the lucky winner. I'm going to start with you. Actually, I'll have each of you, I went through and I shared some of what I thought were best practice tips from what I've seen working with attorneys, helping you guys work with attorneys and hearing your feedback. So do you have any best practice tips that you either want to emphasize or maybe that I missed?
I would have to agree with you as far as the communication. The attorney needs to keep his line of communication open with the paralegal and vice versa. And I believe the paralegal should be able to have a line of communication with the client as well. The client needs to feel comfortable with the paralegal and given the information that the paralegal needs. Makes the whole process go a lot smoother. Takes stress off the attorney.
Yeah, I think that's really important too. I know sometimes it can be difficult getting in contact with the debtors. Sometimes there's a little bit of time spent on that. So I would say too, like if as much information that the attorney can provide to help you get in contact with the debtor, it's going to go a lot smoother too.
A lot smoother, yes.
Yep. Wonderful. I think that's great. Jean, did you have one to add in of like a best practices?
I would just emphasize that. I mean, it's a sensitive topic. They're going through a really difficult time in their lives, and knowing what the attorney expects and being able to translate that to the debtor and make them feel comfortable sharing personal information with us is key, and it makes everything go smoother and quicker. And we were just talking about this. And I mean, it just makes it for a successful case and a successful team.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so Jean, while we're talking with you here, what's the first thing you do when you get assigned a new case? What are you looking for? How do you get started?
Well, it depends on if it's an attorney that I've never dealt with before or an existing attorney that I've worked on cases before. First thing I do is look at the card that I received to see if there's any information that is particular to that case. Go on to the next chapter page for that particular case, see if any documents have already been uploaded, if anything's been started already, any notes in there, because there is a section in there where the attorney can place notes and that sort of thing. And then reach out to the attorney. Let them know that I've received this case, I've been assigned this case, introduce myself. I have a list of questions that I ask the new attorneys, and one of them being how to communicate, what's the best way. A lot of them prefer email or text, and that's fine. And then ask them how they'd like me to reach out to their client. Because they've already introduced themselves, they know what is going on in the case and how the client is to handle. After that, then I just reach out to the client, the debtor, let them know that I'm on board. I'm helping the attorney to get everything together and ready to file for a successful bankruptcy case.
Awesome. That is awesome. And I've seen that. I always see the list that you send out for those. It's so clear. I think that's a great start. Just kind of laying it all out there. That's great. Okay, wonderful. And then Sherry, moving back over to you, what part of the case do you find takes the most time when you're preparing a case? And then what do you do to try to reduce the amount of time that it takes?
Well, the reason why the debtors are filing in the first place is to get relief. And I find that the most difficult part, or what's the most time consuming, is entering the secured and unsecured debtor information, or creditor information, excuse me. It makes it a lot easier if the attorney has the program where you can integrate the credit report. And not to say that that's the Bible. I mean, I still take that credit report that I upload, and I double check. I bounce off the information, such as the account numbers and the balances that are due on there, and I also indicate what type of debt it is, whether it be a credit card debt or medical expense or collection. I'm also like Jean. Now, when I open up a new case, I will bounce off from a checklist of what documents have been provided and what are needed. I will also then, after I introduce myself to the creditor, to the debtor, excuse me, and the attorney, I will email the debtor and let them know that these are documents that are needed as well. And I'll copy the attorney on that too, so that they'll be in sync with what is needed, so that way that if I'm not getting any response from the debtor, the attorney can help out and kind of push that debtor to get me that stuff. But because the sooner we get the information, the sooner it can be filed.
Yes, it takes a village.
Yes.
And I think too, I think that also adds, when you are working with a virtual paralegal, as the debtor may feel a little like, wait, who is this? And we do tell the attorneys, you really need to disclose that you're working with a remote paralegal. Now when you guys call, it's like, hi, I'm Sherry with attorney, John Smith's office. We always say, the paralegals say they're working for the attorney, because you are, it's under their supervision. But sometimes it might just be helpful to have the attorney either be a part of that initial conversation, or that's a good tip for the attorney. Is it's like, you should always be very transparent and clear. I'm working on your case, and so is my paralegal Sherry, or so is my paralegal Jean, so she's going to reach out. So that's definitely, I think that's a good point, and that's something that attorneys can do to help make the debtors feel reassured with who they're contacting, and might speed up the process a little too. So it's not the game of who's this and calling the attorney, why is this person contacting me, and oh well, that's a paralegal. So yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna throw this one out here. I know we had this question for Robin, but I'm sure you guys have some examples. I talked a little bit ago about some red flags that you might keep an eye out for. What are some of those red flags that you guys try to look for and let the attorney know before it becomes a problem?
I would say just as soon as I get a case and I try to reach out to the debtor, if they're not communicating, or if they're not wanting to give me personal information, I want to let the attorney know right away, so that they can make the debtor feel more comfortable sending me that information. Because that's just wasted time trying to text them. Because what I normally do is I'll text them that I'm going to call them, because a lot of times they're avoiding strange numbers, and it's completely understandable. Sure. So if I'm noticing pretty quickly that the debtor doesn't want to cooperate or is afraid to cooperate, I'm going to let the attorney know right off the bat. Reach out to them, let them know that it's safe, and I'll keep their documents as safe as possible, and go from there.
Awesome. Anything to add to that, Sherry, for red flags that you try to look for?
I pretty much agree with her there. I have worked with some attorneys that prefer that you don't speak with the debtor. Mm-hmm. Texting, emailing, phone calling, or anything, because it confuses them. So, okay, that's fine, but this is what I've got to have, and I'm just going to leave it up to you to get those things for me. And it's worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we do see that. And that's something that, the answer is always, I think we get a lot of specific questions when we do webinars, or I talk to attorneys who've never used the service, and they're like, well, I want the paralegal to do this. Can they do that? And we're like, yes, it's your preference. It's always the attorney's preference. So if the attorney says, I only want them to email me. I only want them to, and that's what, we try to help the paralegals keep track of all of those preferences too. We track all the attorney preferences because it's key. We want to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel. I see up in the question tab, someone had asked, oh, and Sarah just answered it, which is awesome. Do you get the same paralegal? We do believe you're building a working relationship, even if it is remote. So we do try to keep the paralegals with the same attorneys. And it's a testament to how awesome you guys are. The attorneys ask for the same paralegals. They always put it in I always get a nice kick out of it because I'm like, I was going to keep you with Jean, but I love that they're like, make sure I'm with Jean, please. I really enjoy it. And can I please have Sherry? I enjoyed working with her. So we do that already. And I love when they request you guys too. It's showing that you're building that relationship, that trust. You're anticipating, their workflow, their style. And, after that first case, maybe two of trying to figure out how the attorney likes to work, it's smooth sailing from there, then you can kind of just have them come in and work the cases and it goes really well. So that's awesome. We do have a few minutes for some audience questions. So I'm going to take a look through some of these. I'll answer some. I'll maybe send some your guys' way. So let me scroll through. Aha, got them all right here. So if there's a huge increase in demand, I'm wondering if you have the bandwidth. I mentioned that earlier. Yes, we do. I'm very confident we do. Not only do we have paralegals on deck for when we exceed what we have now, the two paralegals on stage with you right now have never said no to a case. So you guys, I love you guys. No, they're just they're like, yes, we want more, Mandy, we want more. Where are cases? Where are they at? But they can handle it. They're skilled. You saw how long they've been doing this. They know what they're doing. I have no doubts. Localities are all different in bankruptcy, right? Yes, it is. Paralegals, do they know each locality? Are you connected with one who is local or who does? So my answer to that is we try to keep it regional. And I know what paralegals have worked in different areas. So we do try to make it so that is, the paralegals who are the most comfortable with certain areas that might have some different nuances for the jurisdiction, they're going to know what those are. We also have a community. Our paralegals work together. They will ask for help with one another. And I'm not familiar with this. Have you seen this before? And then my other answer to that is people ask me all the time, what does a paralegal do? They figure things out and they do it really well. Great example. We have Sherry here right now. Sherry does a ton of casework in Guam. Sherry lives nowhere near Guam, but Sherry knows how to work with the attorney, how to communicate, how to, if she needs to get on the court site to find something, that's what paralegals do. They will communicate with the clerk if they need to, contact and find out how should something be filed. And so if we're in uncharted territories, we just try to document those things and keep track of it moving forward so that we don't have to look it up again. So yeah, we may not have the paralegal locally living in your specific area, but that doesn't mean they can't help you with that area and that they haven't already worked in that area too. So that is the beauty of the virtual element of it. They can work in any area. They don't need to be living right there. This will be a fun one for you guys to answer here. How often are you completely frustrated because you're unable to receive needed documentation for the debtor? Is there a certain percentage of these debtors who need to be cut loose? So what would you guys say to that?
I wouldn't cut the debtor loose. That's not up to me.
Yeah.
I just sit back and wait. I can be doing 300 or 400 more cases while I'm waiting on that debtor to provide the documents.
Well, now there also comes a point where you are speaking to the attorney and saying, listen,
Right.
I've pulled out every trick in my bag. It's not working. Do you want me to put it on the shelf and come back to it later? Or do you want to contact them directly and say, I'm firing you? That's up to the attorney. And they get enough messages from me saying, what do you want me to do with this? What's the update on this? That they're going to want to clear up their schedule too, if necessary.
But what do you do if the debtor nor the attorney responds?
And we have had that.
Put them both on the
Do you mean
back
blown
shelf.
means test?
Yes, believe it or not, we have that. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
both of you have had to deal with that. So
Yeah.
let's add that to our list of best practices. Attorneys, respond to us. When the case is ready for review, let us know. We did the work. Let's move it forward.
Right.
So, yeah. So, a question, a lot of people are asking about pricing. So, I'll talk really quickly about that. In next chapter, we do offer per case pricing. So what this means is when you start a case in next chapter, based on the case type that you've entered, we are going to adjust the pricing. So it starts at, most cases that we see it come through are going to be 300, and that's what a chapter 7 is, and that's what a chapter 13 is without the plan, meaning the paralegal is not going to assist with the plan. We ask when you purchase for a paralegal if they do want the paralegal to assist with the plan. They're absolutely able to. Some attorneys, again, it's that preference thing. They just want to keep it and they want to do it themselves. Perfectly fine. Some want to have the paralegal help with that. So that's something we leave up to the attorney, and we will, ask that when we add the service on so that we know what to charge them. And it's just based on time. So the other variable is if you're going to have a case that is an emergency. We have the staff to do it. They work evenings, they work weekends, they can take those on, but because it is a higher demand and they might have to put their other work on hold to be able to jump on that and get a case filed to stop sheriff sale, to stop a garnishment, whatever the case may be, it is a higher fee. So we do charge more for that, and we ask you that when you purchase. So if you are a next chapter user, or if you're not and you sign up for an account, it's really, really easy to get started. You simply create a case, go to hire a virtual paralegal, and just give us some basic information so that we can move forward. And the paralegal gets assigned. And as you guys heard from Sherry and Jean, they reach out right away, introduce themselves, and get to know you and work on the case. And that's what that link is that we shared a little bit ago too. If you want help in setting up a next chapter account, making sure that you know how to hire that paralegal, and then just talking with them and having that conversation, like, how do you prefer to be contacted? If you want to do all that before you have a case, use that calendar link that we sent, and you can go ahead and schedule. It'll give you a link to our calendar, and we will assign it to a paralegal to give you a call and do just that. So that's a great way to kind of get started before you're ready to get started. Let's see how much time we got. Time for a couple more questions here. Okay. Is there a paralegal who can help us set up Clio and next chapter if we need help? Yes, and I do want to touch on this too. We also have paralegals that can help with not just the case preparation and intake, but if you need help post-petition, or if you have something a little more specific you need help with that's not within that flat fee of like intake to filing, we help on an hourly basis. The paralegal tracks their time. If you have a case that was filed on another software, you need it transposed into next chapter. If you have it in next chapter, you just need help with an amendment, they can do those things on an hourly basis. It's $50 an hour. And again, the paralegal just tracks their time for it and lets us know. And then after the work is done, unlike starting the case, we're going to charge you after, just because there's variables in how long it's going to take to have that done, especially if they have to work with the debtors. So we can work with that. Just reach out to us and let us know, and we can figure out ways that we can help you with get set up or any other tasks you might need. And let's see. Oh, and I think I saw asking about vetting for the paralegals. I think that's a really good question. Paralegals that we work with are always going to be ones with bankruptcy experience. That is important to us. So, we want to make sure that they have worked in a law firm with an attorney. That is a huge thing. And we abide by the ABA specifications for what a paralegal is. It's one that has experience by either education, training, or experience, one of those three things. And so we do look for them that they have at least had one of those to be considered a paralegal, but then to be a bankruptcy paralegal, we do expect them to have had debtor-specific bankruptcy experience. We have turned away paralegals who've asked to work on bankruptcy cases. We've only done creditor work. I've done both sides. And if you haven't done the debtor side, I think there is a really specific knowledge base there that you may not see on the creditor side. So because it is virtual, we do expect the paralegals to hit the ground running, to not need to be trained, to not have to have the attorney, work with them on training them. That's what we look for. So we do expect, and we only hire paralegals for the bankruptcy cases with debtor specific experience in another law firm. And let me see. Our cases for the virtual paralegals monitored to make sure that the cases don't get backlogged. They are, and that's where next chapter really comes in. We do audits of all the pending cases. The girls get lovely messages from me every once in a while, not too often, especially not these two. And I say, hey, what's going on with this case? Where are we? So it is kind of an extra set of eyes. We do not monitor the casework at all. This is under the supervision of the attorney. So if a paralegal asks me a specific question of what should be done within the case, they can, you know, if it's getting too legal, they're going to have to go to the attorney for that. That's up to the attorney to decide. What we're monitoring is the efficiency with the technology, helping them to document, communicate, work with each other in the community that we've built, and also making sure that nothing falls through the cracks. So we really make it easy for the paralegals to connect with the attorney and to keep those cases moving forward, and not have like a backlog of cases sitting and waiting too long. Okay, and I think that about does it. I want to make sure. I know there's some questions that weren't answered. I did start a paralegal group in the Slack. So in the BK Week Slack, if you guys want to continue to communicate, please, you know, check that out and communicate in there, and we can talk more. If you're paralegals who want to talk, or if you want to know about working with paralegals, it's not just for paralegals. So my thought on creating that was more of a space to just talk about this world of working and engaging with paralegals. And, you know, that could be in next chapter or out. It doesn't matter. That's perfectly fine. We obviously hope you'll use our service. Our service is specific to next chapter, and our paralegals work on the cases through next chapter. So if you do want to get started with us and you haven't, we do ask that you create your free next chapter account. The paralegals can assist with that. We can assist with that. And then you can start working with the paralegals through the system. But I think that is all I have for now. And I want to thank you guys so much for taking your time and coming and talking with us today. You guys are rock stars. I'm always singing your praises. So thank you for being a part of the team and talking with this community and helping to get these attorneys ready to go and working with paralegals.
Thanks for asking.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. And just a reminder, we do have more sessions coming up. We added one on Friday. We did have a lot of demand for wanting to see a demo of next chapter. So we did add that in. I think it's at 9 a.m. Eastern if you haven't signed up for that. And please take a look at the Slack group, and we'll be sending an email out today with a recap of all the sessions. So thank you, everyone. Hope you have a good rest of your afternoon.